You recently put out a video on this sort of topic talking about the rise of generative AI and its impact on creativity. Watching the video, I kind of agree with you. Now that the genie's out of the bottle, it's like we can't put it back in. It's out. We have to live with it and make do in this world. Was there something specific that sort of spurred you to create that video?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, man, was there was this weird thing in at least my industry in music where it was taboo to talk about it. And it's like, guys, this is going to affect the entire world in the same way. We can't be naive and think the world is fair. It's a cruel and brutal place. This industry is like one of the most horrible structured pieces of shit for like people getting treated fairly. If you don't understand how this stuff is coming in and how it's going to change everything, there's some asshole at some corporation that's going to do it and wipe out your entire source of income from an entire industry.
Welcome to Pario magazine, where I chat with individuals who have a desire to create. Today I'm joined by one of the most well-known electronic artists whose new collaborative EP, The Quiet That Hurts, evolves his sound once again. Welcome to Pario magazine, What So Not?
Hey, mate, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. We're here today to chat about your new EP and some sort of a recent post you put up about the impact of generative AI on creativity. Before we dive into all of that, do you want to give our audience a little insight into who What's or Not is away from music?
Oh, away from music. I feel like my whole life is just
Is music?
dealing with this career, It's like it's a lot. It's I was just talking to someone about it. It's 80 to 100-hour weeks every single week, like no breaks unless you want things to like slow down or fall apart. It's just all gas. I think the only I try and stay really healthy and fit, which I think is the only thing that keeps my creative flow moving and keeps me sane in all of this, keeps your body able to do the 300 flights after you get here. And I get into surfing a bunch, which is a bit of a salvation and a bit of, I think, playful chaos I get to dive into physically, which is away from the chaos of music.
Yep, and it's probably a little bit quieter out in the surf than it is in the rest of the world for you at times.
Yeah.
So, firstly, I thought we'd focus on your creativity and the new EP, The Quiet That Hurts, which is a production in collaboration with a range of artists. What was the major inspiration behind the EP?
I was working with my friend Bunshin on it, who's a really phenomenal drum and bass producer. And he actually studied at a conservatorium over there in the Netherlands, where he's from, and studied sort of sound creation from raw materials, creating textures and crashing waves of sound together to form different waveforms that we sort of hear as music or soundscapes or foley or whatever it may be. And he was an understudy of some of my great friends, Noisia, who are a really famous drum and bass act that really changed the scene and the sound a long time ago. And I would, when I would go to Europe on my tours, I would just stay at his house and we would just sort of explore creative ideas with music, drum and bass, and all different fields. And we sort of brought our two strengths together of, I guess, emotive intention and songwriting with his very powerful production sounds and sound knowledge.
Okay. And then, so obviously, when you're collaborating with a variety of different artists, not just Bunshin, but people like Lucy Lucy, Alina Pash, how do you approach this process? Like, do you go into it with an overall vision for this is what I want from the EP or the record? Or is it more of a let's see where this collaborative process and the flow goes?
Nice. Yeah, I would describe it like I don't really go. Maybe if I have an idea about someone already, I might go into a session like, hey, I've got this thing I think you'd be really into to go down this direction with. I might do it like that. If I don't know the person as well, it's more exploratory. Like, might make something there on the spot together that is just sort of inspiring for the both of us. I might show them some things I'm working on and they're inspired by that. And then we go down the rabbit hole in that way. Particularly working with songwriters, it's often just the process of finding some sort of common ground on a moment and experience and energy, whatever it may be, getting on that track together and then sort of drawing down your shared experience into words, into lyrics, into feeling, into texture, into melodic movements.
Obviously, you're no stranger to collaboration, given that the What So Not project initially began as a duo between yourself and Flume. How has the creative process sort of evolved since those days?
I guess it's just always developing. It's a lifelong endeavor. I think music creation and being an artist, it's never something you complete. It's an endless endeavor. Every 5 or 10 years, I've reached this thing I was striving for. Whether it was experimenting with certain sound design, getting a certain way with mixing, getting a certain way with songwriting, and you get to that point, and then you're like, oh, I still scratching at the surface of
Mhm.
5% of what's possible in this field.
And then I guess, yeah, when you're collaborating with others, you're learning new techniques, new ideas. And then there's also all of these new tools that are coming on to the market in terms of AI and samples and all of that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
You recently put out a video on this sort of topic talking about the rise of generative AI and its impact on creativity. Watching the video, I kind of agree with you. Now that the genie's out of the bottle, it's like we can't put it back in. It's out. We have to live with it and make do in this world. Was there something specific that sort of spurred you to create that video?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, man, was there was this weird thing in at least my industry in music where it was taboo to talk about it. And it's like, guys, this is going to affect the entire world in the same way. Don't bury your head in the sand and like be first of all fearful of discussing it frankly, and fearful that and trying to bring people down for making a topic of conversation. It's like, we have to talk about it. It's pretty much here. It's pretty much game over unless you shift right now. So let's start talking about what we feel is acceptable to shift towards, who we want to partner with on that shift, who's trying to do this in ethical ways, or has not started ethically. Because a lot of I think about my career, like most of us were just pirating music, uploading bootlegs for free, all this stuff. None of that was legal or right. We were building our careers off the backs of all these other acts before us who had to do it the hard way. It's how life goes. And there's this sort of tipping point we're hitting right here, where you've got to decide not necessarily what side you're on, but how you're going to adapt when there is no longer sides, and it's just, this is the new normal. This is the way the world is shifting now.
Yeah, and I guess as artists, like if you don't speak about it, obviously companies will want to, like record labels and things would obviously like to do that because then they don't have to pay sort of artists and things for it. So I guess it's
Yeah,
let's speak up about it and change that
we
before it
can't
gets too far.
we can't be naive and think the world is fair. It's a cruel and brutal place. This industry is like one of the most horrible structured pieces of shit for like people getting treated fairly. If you don't understand how this stuff is coming in and how it's going to change everything, there's some asshole at some corporation that's going to do it and wipe out your entire source of income from an entire industry. I think the first thing that comes to mind is how many artists rely on music getting synced to television, music getting synced to YouTube, ads, commercials, whatever it may be. That is probably one of the first things that goes, because corporations do not give a crap about people. Most of them don't give a crap about being ethical. They're literally trying to please their stockholders. They're trying to make the biggest profit margin they can. And if they can take some shortcut to do that, oh my God, they're going to do it. So we got to understand how we're going to work with this new system and where you're going to make money if you are very aware that very quickly there's not going to be money there anymore.
Yeah, especially advertising when they're trying to sell a product and make more money. If we can cut out a little bit of the cost at the start, why wouldn't we? So
And I think the biggest thing with it will not necessarily even be the money cost. It's the time cost. It's the infrastructure that is required to have some sort of A&R within your company to go and find these people, to make sure they're trustworthy, to deliver on time, to build all this. They just want to hit a button and it's
mhm.
done. And they hit a button prompted exactly what they're looking for, immediately and it's done. Like that is really what corporations are looking for. Is it right? No. Is it ethical? No. Was it trained off stolen information? Yes. But it doesn't change that that is what they're going to prefer, and that is what they're going to do if they can get away with it. And sure enough, we know how society works. Whoever has the money can get away with what they want.
And as you mentioned, like in relation to electronic music, it's a bit of a murky line given the use of, like you mentioned, sort of pirated music in the early days, but like even now, like samples, drum machines, synthesizers. Bearing that in mind, how has the response been to the post?
I think for the most part, fine. A lot of artists were like, yeah, that's right. This is what we're thinking. Shit, okay. A lot of the responses were that. I did see a couple of negative responses. You could just tell I was like, you didn't listen to what I said. You just got angry because I said an AI. Because they would say things.
They heard that first sentence and went, oh, no.
And this is the problem. It's like, hey, man, I don't even support it. I'm just saying we got to shift how we're thinking about this. I don't think it's good. I think it's really problematic. But it's here, so we got to deal with it.
Yeah, let's nip it in the bud before it gets too far out of the holster and we can't put it back.
Mm.
And obviously the Australian government recently reaffirmed a requirement that AI companies have to have permission to train models off Australian creatives.
Mm.
Do you think that's like perhaps the first step about sort of getting some regulation involved in this?
Absolutely. I'm quite proud that our government agreed to that. It's huge. I think they were the first in the world. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And shout out Holly Rankin. She was one of the people spearheading, I think, that on the artist side in all these group chats with us, trying to get. She was asking me to come down to Parliament with everyone. And I know Sam Jungle Giants, who I was working with today, went down and spoke very eloquently and spoke on it in quite a sensible and progressive way, where it's like, hey, some of these tools are great. We use them all the time. We think they're fantastic. Some of them are not very ethical, but probably where the future is going. I think the biggest point I had in that post I put up is like, hey, if they did train on this illegal material, you can trace it back. You can demand subpoenas in order to trace where it came from. And then everything they do forever must pay a royalty back to the people that they reference, which is actually fantastic, because that will actually be so much income that probably would have never come across your plate from any derivative of that work. So this could actually be a fantastic thing if it's done right. But yeah, sorry, you asked something else in that point about Australia. Oh, this is the crux of this issue is, this is the first thing that came to mind for me. It's great Australia government agreed to this. My works, like many people's works, are licensed to companies here in Australia, but they're also those same works licensed to America, licensed to Europe. So if even just one country in the world doesn't agree to the same terms, these AI companies can just go to Bermuda, go to America, go to Netherlands, wherever it is, and they can just steal the same data from there where the laws are different. It's like tax evasion.
Yeah, or like one of those companies could say yes to it, and even though you personally haven't said yes to it, it's out there now.
Exactly.
And I guess, yeah, like you said, these are tools that are useful, because I know myself, like editing videos, there's tools in the editing software that can cut things, create the captions and everything. Those tools I'm fine with. It's the generative stuff where it's pretty much plagiarizing someone else's work that is the big issue.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think, like, if I'm going through Splice and just scrolling samples, how different is that to me just literally typing the exact same thing I'm looking for in my creative mind? I need a tambourine that's doing this kind of a pattern. Can you make that for me? Done. I want it to sound more wooden. I want it to sound more metallic. I need it to be recorded on this type of mic. Done. You know, like, that's pretty useful. That's generative. Where's a line drawn? Probably not creating entire songs like a specific artist, but to some degree, like, it's a very blurry line to me, if I'm being honest, if I'm being a purist about it. It's a very tricky topic to touch, though, because the world isn't fair, and I don't think it's built in a way that's not going to benefit the right people.
So then, sort of back to the fun stuff, is there anything else that we can look for in the future that's exciting for you coming up in the next sort of 12, 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about this EP with Bunshin. It's a sort of a very experimental labor of love that we've been working on for about 3 years. I actually went to China and stayed in a temple with Shaolin monks training kung fu, and that was a real shift in my psyche, I would say. And coming out of that, really sort of honed in on this ideology to flesh out this EP, this idea of where creativity comes from. And I think it's much like a meditative kind of experience. The best artists will probably tell you they don't write their best ideas, they come to them, they allow for them to happen. And The Quiet That Hurts is literally about going to that silence and sitting in that space without the corruption of fear or ego or any of these things that we have in daily life, sitting there and waiting and allowing these ideas to come to you. The EP was sonically an exploration of that process of entering this void and downloading whatever it may be from the universe.
So then just before I let you go, I thought I would bring up a photo that we got together in 2013 when you played, I think, one of the sweatiest gigs I've ever been involved with at the Grand Hotel in Wollongong. Just bring this up now.
Is this the one from like 2012 or something?
2013, yes.
I remember this gig. I got videos of that gig. That was one of the sweatiest pits I've ever been in.
So yeah, this is us after the show when I was
my.
working at the venue, and there was sweat dripping off the roof of that place. It was nuts.
Wow, that is crazy. And we'd flown in from Perth the night before on sort of no sleep, and then went straight into that drive down to Wollongong's sweat pit, and then finally got to sleep that night.
Yeah, that was a incredible show, and yeah, very excited to sort of chat to you when this opportunity came up. So thanks for taking the time. But
amazing.
Where is the best place for people to support you and track the creative journey moving forward?
I think the best place is wherever you are sort of comfortably absorbing music, like there's so many different places. There's SoundCloud, there's Spotify, there's Deezer, there's all these places. Subscribing to Laylo for me is a great one. If you go to that, you can get direct messages when I'm in your town or when I'm dropping new music. And just honestly, I think the most important thing for artists these days is show up to gigs. When you see people come in town, if you got the spare coin and you're really into it, just make sure you get down there, because it really means the world to people having that secure live performances when music creation itself is so up in the air right now.
Alrighty, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, and good luck with the EP and everything else coming up next year.
Amazing. Thank you so much.